This is the weekly roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gauchan. Prime Minister Hun Sen met with the military leader of Myanmar, General Min Aung Hlaing, through an online video conference on Monday morning. This is the third meeting between the two leaders since Prime Minister Hun Sen visited the general in Myanmar on 7th January 2022. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has further details.
Among those attending the meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen and Senior General Min Aung Hlaing were the Cambodian Foreign Minister and Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair for Myanmar, Deputy Prime Minister Prat Sokhonn, the Secretary of State for the Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Eid Prayers, and the three assistants of the Prime Minister, Sri Thammarong, Kai Kum Hun, and Ieng Sopolite. According to a statement released on the outcomes of the meeting by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Prime Minister Hun Sen thanked Senior General Min Aung Hlaing for facilitating the Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair's visit to Myanmar on 21st to 22nd of March 2022 and highlighted the widely expressed aspiration from all quarters to see more speedy progress on achieving the three immediate priorities of the 5-point consensus. These immediate priorities are the cessation of violence, unhindered humanitarian delivery to the people of Myanmar who are in most need, and building trust and confidence to engender an inclusive political dialogue. In response, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing expressed appreciation for Cambodia's efforts to assist Myanmar in finding a peaceful solution to the current crisis and briefed Prime Minister Hun Sen on the latest situation in Myanmar, including response to persistent violence, overture to negotiate a ceasefire agreement with all ethnic armed organizations, and the distribution of the donation of COVID-19 vaccines and medical supplies to 58 hospitals and health centers in Myanmar. The Senior General also offered to further facilitate the ASEAN Special Envoy's engagement with the ethnic armed organizations as part of the effort to end violence. Prime Minister Hun Sen welcomed the goodwill expressed by Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, but also pointed out that it is important to avoid excessive use of force in maintaining law and order. In regard to the consultative meeting on humanitarian assistance in Myanmar to be held in Phnom Penh on the 6th of May 2022, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing confirmed that the chairman of the Myanmar's task force for coordinating humanitarian assistance will lead a delegation to attend this event. Prime Minister Hun Sen also welcomed the release of over 1,600 prisoners during Myanmar's traditional New Year celebrated in April and recalled his earlier request for the release of all political detainees, including Professor Sean Turnell of Australia. The Prime Minister re-emphasized the importance of access for the Special Envoy to meet all parties concerned in Myanmar, including Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and former President Win Myint, to create a conducive environment to start an inclusive political dialogue. Senior General Min Aung Hlaing pledged to facilitate meetings with other parties concerned in response. Concluding the meeting, Prime Minister Hun Sen affirmed Cambodia's commitment to assisting Myanmar's return to democracy in line with the ASEAN 5-point consensus and the unity and centrality of ASEAN 10. Prime Minister Hun Sen previously met with Myanmar's military leader Min Aung Hlaing twice, once in person on the 7th of January 2022 and once through a video call in February. At both these previous meetings, the Prime Minister pushed for a solution for Myanmar and reminded the military leader to honor his promises. Dekanin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen announced the opening of his official Instagram account on the morning of Monday, 2nd May, through his official Facebook page. The Prime Minister wrote, "In the past, I posted pictures on the account named Tasan. From now on, I will use the account in the picture attached as my official account on Instagram." Prime Minister Hun Sen's official Instagram can be followed under the handle @HunSenCambodia. His new account is now using his own photo and currently has 80.1 thousand followers and 59 posts. Prime Minister Hun Sen and First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen sent congratulations and good wishes to the Muslim community in Cambodia for the end of their month of fasting during Ramadan. Taking this opportunity, the Prime Minister also thanked all Khmer Muslims who have joined with other Cambodians in maintaining peace and having faith in the Cambodian People's Party. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more details.
In the letter released by the Prime Minister on Sunday, 1st of May 2022, wishing all Khmer Muslims who successfully completed Ramadan and will be happy to welcome Eid on Monday, the Prime Minister wrote, "I would like to express my deepest wishes and gratitude to the Cambodian Muslims who have joined with other Cambodians in maintaining peace, those who adhere to different religions and have believed in the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Cambodian People's Party from the beginning." The Prime Minister also thanked Cambodian Muslims for their contribution to the royal government in successfully preventing the spread of COVID-19 by strictly complying with the laws, decisions, directives, and measures set by the royal government. On this occasion, the Prime Minister also invited all members of the Muslim community to participate in the booster dose vaccination campaign to receive their third, fourth, and possibly fifth dose to protect against COVID-19. Dekanin EAC News.
The Minister of Interior, Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng, announced that he will depart to France on Monday, 2nd May, to undergo a health checkup. The Deputy Prime Minister is set to return next week. In a statement issued on Monday, 2nd May 2022, the Minister of Interior's cabinet stated that his current visit to France comes after the Deputy Prime Minister underwent a successful medical examination and treatment in France in early September 2021, and it was the doctor's requirement to return for a health checkup. In September 2021, Deputy Prime Minister Saw Keng was absent from the country for 2 weeks as he underwent a medical examination and surgery in France, although his diagnosis has not been publicly announced. It was falsely reported by the opposition at the time that the Deputy Prime Minister also planned to meet with former opposition leader Sam Rainsy. However, this claim was immediately rejected by the Deputy Prime Minister's cabinet. The 1st of May marks both International Workers' Day, also known as Labor Day, and May Day, an ancient European festival celebrating the beginning of the summer. Due to its association with the labor holiday, May Day has become a popular day of protest for labor unions. However, more recently, it has become a popular day for protests in general. Here's a look at some of this year's May Day celebrations and protests around the world. Thousands of people joined May Day protests across France on Sunday to demand social justice and salary increases and to push newly re-elected President Emmanuel Macron to drop his plan to raise the retirement age. The cost of living was the main theme in the presidential election campaign and looks set to be equally prominent ahead of June legislative elections that Macron's party and its allies must win if he is to be able to implement his pro-business policies, including increasing retirement age to 65 for 62. About 250 rallies were organized in Paris and other cities, including Lille, Nantes, Toulouse, and Marseille. In the French capital, trade unionists were joined by political figures, mostly from the left, and climate activists. Marchers carried banners reading "Retirement before arthritis," "Retirement at 60, freeze prices," and "Macron, get out." German Chancellor Olaf Scholz spoke at a May Day rally of unions in Düsseldorf on Sunday, facing protesters holding signs reading "Olaf Scholz, not my Chancellor," and calling him warmonger as he defended German arms delivered to Ukraine. "I respect any pacifism, I respect any attitude, but it must seem cynical to a citizen of Ukraine to be told to fight back against Putin's aggressions without weapons," Scholz said, addressing those who say delivering heavy weapons to Ukraine risks provoking a Russian military response in a third country and sparking a broader conflict. Scholz is under pressure at home and abroad to supply Ukraine with heavy arms, such as tanks and howitzers, and support an immediate EU embargo on Russian energy imports to strip President Vladimir Putin of hard currency that helps him finance the war.
Wenn ihm gesagt wird, solle sich gegen die putinsche Aggression
Thousands of Cubans made their way to Havana's Revolution Square on Sunday for the traditional May Day celebrations, attended by President Miguel Diaz-Canel, who looked on with former President Raul Castro. Following a 2-year hiatus as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year marks the return of the nation's most important holiday after Jan 1st, the victory day of former leader Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution. Like in many other countries around the world, May 1st is recognized as Labor Day in Cuba. Cuba has marked International Workers' Day since 1890, though massive rallies in Revolution Square took off in earnest after the 1959 revolution. Dozens of mothers and family members of missing migrants marched from Ciudad Hidalgo, Chiapas on Sunday in search of their loved ones. Carrying photographs, banners, and flags, the caravan headed towards Mexico City seeking for answers. Each year, thousands of migrants go missing in Mexico without proper investigations from the authorities. Families of the missing migrants demand action from the authorities in the search for their loved ones. In more Latin American countries, Thousands marched through the streets of Buenos Aires, Caracas, La Paz, and Lima on Sunday to raise their voices against social injustice and demand better labor conditions during May Day. Struck by unfavorable economic conditions, high inflation, and rising prices worsened by the war in Ukraine, various Latin American countries battled to maintain competitiveness in the global market. In Lima, Peruvian President Pedro Castillo expressed his recognition to the workers of Peru for their efforts and permanent sacrifice to fight for justice. In Caracas, President Nicolas Maduro gave a news conference announcing there would be a rise in wages for Venezuelan workers. May Day, an annual holiday, is observed all over the world to celebrate the economic and social achievements of workers. The celebration of Labor Day has its origins in the 8-hour day movement, which advocated 8 hours for work, 8 hours for recreation, and 8 hours for rest. Dozens of civilians arrived at a temporary accommodation center on Sunday after being evacuated from the bunkers of Mariupol's Azovstal steel plant after the United Nations and the International Red Cross led a deal to ease the ordeal of the most destructive siege of the war in Ukraine.
Russian forces pummeled a port city for nearly 2 months, turning Mariupol into a wasteland with an unknown death toll and thousands trying to survive without water, sanitation, or food. The city is under Russian control, but some fighters and civilians have sheltered underground in the Azovstal Works, a vast Soviet-era plant founded under Joseph Stalin and designed to be a labyrinth of bunkers and tunnels to withstand attack. The United Nations later said that an operation to evacuate people from the steelworks had been underway since Friday. The UN spokesperson Xaviano Abreu said the UN confirms that a safe passage operation is ongoing in Azovstal steel plant in coordination with the ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, and the parties to the conflict. He added, at this point and as the operations are underway, we will not share further details as it could jeopardize the safety of the civilians and the convoy. The ICRC said the convoy had traveled 230 kilometers to reach the steelworks. A Reuters photographer reported seeing civilians arriving in the village of Bezemin in an area of Donetsk under the control of Russia-backed separatists around 30 kilometers east of Mariupol. They were receiving refreshments and care after weeks of suffering. Young children were among those evacuated from the plant, where people cowered underground, huddling together under blankets in the plant's bunkers and tunnels as the shelling tore their city apart.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has declared all students nationwide a priority group for the COVID-19 vaccine to protect their health and promote a stronger education for all students. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more.
Speaking at a meeting with grade A students on Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen announced that from now on, students will be allocated the same amount of vaccines as the police force and other priority groups.
មន្ត្រីរាជការរបស់យើងកម្លាំងជួរមុខរបស់យើងដើរទៅដល់ណាកូនសិស្សត្រូវដើរទៅដល់នោះដែរយើងមានកូនសិស្សជាង3លាននាក់អញ្ចឹងនិស្សិតជាង3លាននាក់ដូច្នេះតម្រូវការចាក់ម្ដងគឺ3លានដុសវាមិនពិបាកសម្រាប់កម្ពុជាដែលយើងនឹងមានវ៉ាក់សាំងគ្រប់គ្រាន់ដើម្បីចាក់
Currently, in addition to doctors, the government considers civil servants, teachers, the armed forces, journalists, artists, government workers, and garbage collectors as main priority groups to receive the vaccine. According to the Prime Minister, there are more than 3 million students in Cambodia. According to the Prime Minister, there are more than 3 million students in Cambodia. With schools fully reopened since November 2021, the students are being highlighted as priority group for the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm Decca Nin, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
Prime Minister Hun Sen said that he has recently shed tears when seeing the progress and happiness of the people under his leadership. He made this statement while speaking at the meeting with grade A students on Tuesday morning. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has further details.
Prime Minister Hun Sen said that in recent weeks he had shed happy tears twice. The first time was when he attended the 4th Asian Pacific Water Summit in Japan. While in Japan, Prime Minister Hun Sen met with the Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who played a music video of a song Japan had written on the hardships of the Cambodian people after the Khmer Rouge regime. Upon watching this video, Prime Minister Hun Sen said he shed tears in front of the Japanese minister. The second time Prime Minister Hun Sen said he shed tears was this morning, after seeing all the changes in Cambodia now compared to the time right after liberation from the Khmer Rouge regime.
ខ្ញុំនឹកសម័យអតីតកាលខ្ញុំមិននឹកស្មានថាយើងមានថ្ងៃនេះទេ នៅពេលដែលយើងចាប់ចេញដំណើរដោយបាត់ដៃទទេពីរបបប៉ុលពតនៅក្នុងដំណាក់កាលនៃសង្គ្រាមក្រោយសង្គ្រាមហើយខ្ញុំសម័យឃើញនៅក្នុងបទចម្រៀងនោះដែលបានយករូបភាពចាស់ៗយកទៅដាក់ដែលធ្វើឲ្យខ្ញុំនឹកសំណោះភាពខ្លោចសាររបស់ប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាក្នុងអតីតកាលព្រឹកមិញខ្ញុំបានឃើញស្ថានភាពផ្លាស់ប្ដូរសម្រាប់យុវជនរបស់យើងខ្ញុំពិតជាមានមោទនភាពនិងការរំភើបរហូតដោយស្រស់ទឹកភ្នែកមិនដឹងខ្លួន
Prime Minister Hun Sen, who is currently 69 years old, first became the Minister of Foreign Affairs in 1979 at the age of 27. He has been the Prime Minister of Cambodia since 1985. Prime Minister Hun Sen has led Cambodia with empty hands, from being a country torn apart by war to the country is united and prosperous today. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that he does not encourage Cambodian supporters of the Cambodian People's Party and the royal government living abroad to protest against those who want to hold protests against the Prime Minister. EAC News reporter Dekanin has more.
Speaking at a meeting with grade A students on Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that he will travel to the United States on the 10th of May for the ASEAN-US Special Summit and said that there will be opposition groups protesting against his arrival in the country. However, the Prime Minister said that these protesters are allowed to do so because it is their right, so he asked his own supporters to not protest against those groups back.
Bong ឬប្អូនឬក្មួយឬចៅដែលមកទទួលខ្ញុំនោះមិនចាំបាច់ឃើញគេធ្វើបាតកម្មមកប្រឆាំងខ្ញុំហើយយើងទៅធ្វើបាតកម្មតទេគ្មានការចាំបាច់ដើម្បីធ្វើរឿងបែបនេះទេគណៈបកប្រជាជនឬរាជរដ្ឋាភិបាលមានមនុស្សគាំទ្រនៅក្រៅប្រទេសដែលជានិច្ចកាលទំហំធំជាងចំនួនអ្នកមកធ្វើបាតកម្មប្រឆាំងខ្ញុំ
Prime Minister Hun Sen said that he will meet the US-based Cambodians when he travels to the United States on the 10th of May. Later, on the 14th of May, the Prime Minister will return to Cambodia before departing for Switzerland on the 20th of May. During that visit, he is set to meet with Cambodians living in Switzerland and the European Union. The Prime Minister is expected to meet around 1,000 US-based Cambodians when he arrives in the United States. He will then go on to attend and co-chair the ASEAN-US Special Summit with President Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. I'm Dekanin, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
The head of the royal government of Cambodia, Prime Minister Hun Sen, has called on journalists to further develop their technical skills and to also increase their capacities in news writing and dissemination of information in order to increase public confidence in the press and to adequately respond to the evolution of digital media technology. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
Prime Minister Hun Sen made this call through a message he released on the occasion of the 29th World Press Freedom Day on Tuesday the 3rd of May. In his message, he said that the 29th World Press Freedom Day highlights a topic of the press in the digital age and calls for more joint efforts to be made by stakeholders to support press freedom and understand the challenges faced by the media due to the growing use and sharing of information on social media. The Prime Minister said that combined with the global economic crisis brought by the COVID-19 pandemic and the global political crisis, both digital and traditional forms of media face financial difficulties, and many media outlets have been forced into closure during this time. Globally, this key issue requires state institutions, the press, journalists and the stakeholders to work together to find common ground to help the media landscape down the path of normalisation. He further added that at the same time, some media outlets are also having to reckon with development of digital media technology, which has put traditional media and journalists up against market competition with online media channels. The Prime Minister said that now any individual, single entry or organisation has its own media channels that can receive and disseminate information at any time at fast speeds and with the most and up-to-date diverse information. In this regard, the Prime Minister said in media, especially traditional media, are required to strive towards digitalisation to enter a greater potential market and provide factual and professional information to increase public confidence and compete with digital and social media. Prime Minister Hun Sen affirmed that the royal government of Cambodia is committing to protecting the right of freedom of expression, freedom of press and promoting the partnership between the royal government and the indispensable media platforms with the framework of multi-party liberal democracy. The royal government has given top priority in the political program to the media in order to fight against corruption and contribute to legal and judicial reform, public administration reform, the promotion of democracy and the rule of law, and respect for human rights to build a society of justice, peace and long-term development, which is the royal government's aspirations and vision and that has thus far achieved great success. World Press Freedom Day is held on 3rd of May every year and aims to promote freedom of expression, freedom of press, media independence and pluralism.
Israel lambasted Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Monday for claiming Adolf Hitler had Jewish origins, saying it was an unforgivable falsehood that debased the horrors of the Nazi Holocaust.
Leaders from several Western nations denounced the Foreign Minister's comments, and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of having forgotten the two lessons of World War II. In a sign of sharply deteriorating relations with Moscow, the Israel Foreign Minister summons the Russian ambassador and demanded an apology. Such lies are intended to accuse the Jewish themselves of the most horrific crimes in history that committed against them, Israel Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said in a statement. The use of the Holocaust of the Jewish people for the political purpose must stop immediately, he said. Lavrov made the association on Italian television on Sunday when he was asked why Russia is needed to densify Ukraine if the country's own president, Volodymyr Zelensky, was himself Jewish. When they say, what sort of Nazification is this if we are Jews? Well, I think it's Hitler also had Jewish origins, so it means nothing, Lavrov told Rete 4 channel, speaking through an Italian interpreter. For a long time now, we've been hearing the wise Jewish people say that the biggest anti-Semitists are the Jewish themselves, he added. Zelensky, in his nightly video message, noted Moscow has been silent since Lavrov's comments. This means that the Russian leadership has forgotten all the lessons of World War II, he said, or perhaps they have never learnt those lessons. Israel Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, whose grandfather died in the Holocaust, said accusing Jews of being anti-Semitic was the basest level of racism. He dismissed Lavrov's association with the pro-Nazi elements held sway over the Ukraine government and military. The Ukrainians aren't Nazis. Only the Nazis were Nazis, and only they dealt with systematic destruction of the Jewish people, Lapid told Ynet News website.
Gustavo Petro, the leftist frontrunner in Colombia's presidential election, on Monday canceled events in the country's Rafi region because of what his office said was a plot by a crime gang to attempt to take his life.
Petro, a former M19 guerrilla and mayor of Bogota, was scheduled to travel to the region, including the city of Manizales, on Tuesday and Wednesday ahead of the scheduled vote on May 29th. But the visit has been called off after Petro's security team got information that the La Cordillera crime gang was planning an attack, his office said in a statement. According to work carried out by the security team, which received first-hand information from sources in the area, the criminal group La Cordillera was planning to make an attempt on the life of presidential candidate Gustavo Petro, said the statement without providing further evidence. Campaign press officers confirmed the authenticity of the statement. Colombia's national police said later on Monday they had no information regarding a plot against Petro, adding that he had robust protection measures. La Cordillera, which operates largely in the coffee region, has been blamed by police for the death of a local organizer of anti-government marches which swept the country a year ago. Petro led an opinion poll last week with 43.6% of prospective first-round votes, while his closest rival, the center-right, Federico Gutierrez, tallied 26.7%. Petro has attracted support of his promises to right profound income inequality in the Andean country, including via a distribution of pension savings. But investors have warned the pension plan and his pledge to halt new oil projects could put the country's economic stability at risk. The 62-year-old will face a divided Congress if he wins the presidency, with centrist and right-leaning parties largely throwing their support behind Guterres.
Prime Minister Hun Sen and First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen have organized a 3-year anniversary ceremony dedicated to the souls of Boon Sing Lee and Lin Cree, Prime Minister Hun Sen's parents-in-law and First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen's biological parents. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more.
The ceremony took place on Wednesday morning with Prime Minister Hun Sen and First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen's family, relatives and friends in attendance. The Prime Minister and First Lady made offerings to bless the souls of Boon Sing Lee and Lin Cree with devotional service, giving alms and with dedication to the merits of the monks. The Supreme Patriarch of Cambodia bestowed blessings on the spirits of Boon Sing Lee and Lin Cree, who have moved to the next world in heaven, asking for happiness, no distractions and blessings. The Supreme Patriarch prayed for the protection of the sacred objects of the deities in the world to please follow and protect the Prime Minister and First Lady, and to continue blessing them with great power to win against all enemies and continue being the best leader in Cambodia in order to maintain peace and develop the kingdom to be more prosperous. It should be noted that Boon Sing Lee, the birth mother of First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen, passed away on the 4th of May 2020 at the age of 95. Dekanin, EAC News.
ស្វាព្យានៅប្រាប់បរតគាថានឹងទី2រៀងរាល់ត្រីបានអរតនានិមន្តពងសាសម្ដេចព្រះធម្មនិខិតសម្ដេចព្រះពុទ្ធគិមនីសម្ដេចព្រះសាគយមុនីសម្ដេចព្រះអញ្ជើញមកទទួលនៅ
Thôi chứ, thôi
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Deputy Prime Minister Pak Sakhon, and the Honorary Chief Patron of the ASEAN Women's Circle of Cambodia, King Samvada, have inaugurated the Angkor Kitchen. This establishment is one of the internal reforms initiated by the Deputy Prime Minister to promote culinary diplomacy, an initiative which has also received the support of Prime Minister Hun Sen. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
According to the press release issued on Tuesday, 3rd of May, by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Angkor Kitchen was built for three main reasons. The first is to present the recipes of authentic Khmer dishes and desserts listed in an award-winning cookbook, The Taste of Angkor, which is a key to promote culinary diplomacy. The second is to organise culinary diplomacy training programs for Cambodian diplomats, especially for the spouses of ambassadors, to train them on how to cook authentic Khmer cuisine. And the third is to contribute to the royal government efforts to transform Cambodia into an upper middle income country by 2030 and a high income country by 2050. As the ministry believes once Khmer food becomes acceptable and well known, There will be more investment opportunities in different sectors such as the tourist and airline industries, as well as agricultural, production and restaurant and hotel expansions. The Angkor Kitchen inauguration ceremony was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and presided over by the Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn and the Honorary Chief Patron of the Asian Women's Circle of Cambodia's King Samvandra. Also attended were other ministry leaders and spouses of Asian ambassadors and Asian partners who are also members of the Asian Women's Circle of Cambodia. Anthony Ellis, EAC News. Culinary diplomacy is one of the strategies coming from the Foreign Affairs, as the Khmer food is growing worldwide. Anthony Ellis, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
The Secretary of State for the Ministry of Social Affairs and Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, Mclaren, stated that people with autism and Down syndrome need the most attention among persons with disabilities. He said that since both are mental conditions that need to be maintained throughout a person's life, the presence and attention of parents, guardians, and teachers is essential and should be encouraged. EAC News reporter Dekanin has the story.
Speaking at a conference and celebration of Autism and Down Syndrome Awareness Day at Takmal Special Education High School on Wednesday, 4th of May, Secretary of State Mclaren raised concerns about the challenges that people with autism and Down syndrome would face when they lose guardianship. He said that the government is now examining possible measures to help people with autism and Down syndrome during challenging times. He said, now they are young and small, so they are okay. But when they turn 20 or so, things will be difficult. Right now, they may have parents and teachers, so it's okay. But when the parents, guardians, and teachers are gone, who will take care of them? This is an issue that has no solution yet. According to the Secretary of State, the government is currently building the National Center for Persons with Disabilities of Cambodia, which is scheduled to open in 2023 as a place to help and care for all persons with disabilities. Secretary of State Mclaren further thanked the teachers, parents, and guardians of children with autism and Down syndrome for their hard work in caring for and educating the children. He also suggested that schools set up a curriculum to inspire children with autism and Down syndrome as well. He added that the royal government decided to incorporate Hands of Hope Community into a public institution called Takmal Special Education High School in February 2021, which is a special education school for children with autism. The president of Cambodian Autism Network, Jansarin, said that people with autism are people with complex neurological disorders and other problems that occur regularly as they grow. He said, it can be said that it is a general, non-specific development in children with autism to have social difficulties, especially with people around them. No one has been able to confirm the exact reason why people have autism. According to Jansarin, the special education high school currently has 215 students with autism and Down syndrome and nearly 200 other students who are waiting to be enrolled. In addition, the school also sends students to study abroad to participate in both local and international competency competitions. Secretary of State Mclaren said he considered the participation of parents, guardians, and teachers in the care and education of children with autism and Down syndrome as a contribution to the government, saying that these people should be further encouraged. He said caring for children with autism and Down syndrome requires a lot of attention. So typically, one teacher may take care of a class of only 3 students, unlike other teachers who may be responsible for a class of 25. The Secretary of State also expressed his happiness over the students with autism and Down syndrome who are able to participate in international competency competitions, which also reflects how the government has been taking care of persons with disabilities. He said that all of these achievements have been made possible due to the establishment of peace in Cambodia, which has made it so that persons with disabilities and children with autism and Down syndrome can receive proper care, education, and international opportunities. He also thanked the parents and guardians of children with autism and Down syndrome for taking them to get the COVID-19 vaccine and urged them to continue receiving booster doses at the request of Prime Minister Hun Sen. Dekanin, EAC News.
The Director General of the General Department of Customs and Excise, Kun Nyam, said that from 1st of July onwards, all right-hand drive vehicles that have not yet paid taxes will be destroyed or disassembled into parts. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Speaking at the press conference on the progress of implementation of the collection of duty-free vehicles and existing import duties in the country on Wednesday, Director General Kim Nim said that until the deadline of the 30th of June 2022, the General Department of Customs provides people time to pay taxes for both right and left-hand drive vehicles. After this deadline, however, the department will take steps to increase the crackdown on vehicles with unpaid taxes. When caught, left-hand drivers' vehicles will be forced to pay their taxes, import duties plus fines, when right-hand drive vehicles will be confused to destroyed or disassembled into parts. The Director General said, in order to avoid any problems after the 30th of June 2022, the General Department of Customs has informed that it will strictly implement this principle. People should bring their cars to pay taxes. It should be noted that the right-hand drive vehicles for the remaining 2 months before the deadline, the General Department of Customs continues to deduct 10% of the tax. Additionally, to make it easier for members of the public, the General Department of Customs will continue to work on car tax payments serving during holidays. According to the General Department of Customs and Excise, of April the 30th, around 7,000 cars have come to pay their taxes, a totaling of $60 million. There's still thousands of cars who are registered that still not paid their taxes. Anthony Ellis, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
About 70 rare and endangered deer have been spotted by scientists in the grasslands of the Mekong landscape in Kratie Province, in images caught by camera traps and thermal drone surveys. EAC News reporter Dekanin has the story.
The observation of 70 rare hog deer was announced by the Ministry of Environment on Monday, 2nd of May. The images of the deer were obtained through photographic evidence from camera traps and thermal drone surveys, which showed the presence of multiple fawns, indicating that reproduction is taking place in the area. The research program was carried out by wildlife research experts from the Kachin Provincial Department of Environment and WWF, with technical support from the Biodiversity Inventory for Conservation NPO team, Thermal Drones GmbH, as well as by the local community and local authorities. The deer was spotted in a wildlife sanctuary under the management of the Ministry of Environment with WWF support. Additionally, the Ministry of Environment and WWF have stated that they are preparing a report on the status of the hog deer population in Cambodia, which will soon be released. The hog deer is listed on the IUCN Red List as a globally endangered species. Once thought to be extinct in Cambodia, scientists rediscovered the species in 2006 in Kachin Province. The hog deer are still, however, threatened by habitat loss, poaching, and a snaring crisis that is fueled by the illegal wildlife trade. To save the hog deer and other globally important species in Cambodia from poaching and snaring, the Zero Snaring in Cambodia Protected Areas campaign was created and officially launched earlier in March 2022, with the aim of eliminating all types of wildlife traps and ending the illegal wildlife trade. Lekanin, EAC News.
Police used batons to break up a clash between Hindus and Muslims after Eid Prayers in India's northwestern Jodhpur city on Tuesday, 3rd May.
Media reports said the tension between the two groups began on Monday, 2nd of May, when a flag marking the birthday of Hindu god Parashuram was raised in Jodhpur Jalori Gate the same day as Muslims were celebrating Eid, the end of the holy fasting month of Ramadan. The two groups clashed on Monday and media reports said police were injured. Clashes broke out again on Tuesday. In recent weeks, religious clashes have broken out between the majority Hindu and minority Muslim communities during religious processions in several parts of the country. The rule of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Hindu Nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, has emboldened hardline religious groups in recent years to take up causes that they say defend the Hindu faith, although his party has denied any rise in communal tensions during Modi's reign. While communal violence in India is sporadic, clashes erupted across the country in early 2020 over a citizenship law that Muslims said was discriminatory. Dozens of people died.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Monday, 2nd May.
U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi said America stands with Ukraine until victory is won at a news conference in Rzeszów, Poland on Sunday, May 1st. Do not be bullied by bullies. If they're making threats, you cannot back down, said Pelosi, the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Ukraine since Russia invaded on February 24th. She condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin's diabolic invasion. If Putin uses unconventional weapons, including chemical weapons or strategical nukes, all bets are off, said Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Gregory Meeks at the same news conference. Moscow says its action aims to disarm Ukraine and rid of anti-Russian nationalism fomented by the West. Ukraine and the West say Russia launched an unprovoked war of aggression. Pelosi's delegation is set to meet with Polish President Andrzej Duda and other senior officials on Monday, May 2nd.
If they're making threats A military junta in Guinea said its transition back to civilian rule will probably take more than 3 years, a proposal likely to upset West Africa political bloc that has called for a swift return to constitutional orders after last year's coup. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, the head of the junta that took power in September, told state television late on Saturday, April 30, that after political consultations, he was ordering a transition of 39 months, the first month he has proposed a timeline. The CNOD, the National Release and Development Committee, and the government in turn will submit to the CNT, the National Transitional Council, which serve as a parliament. This proposal, which is the result of extensive and patient consultations, Doumbouya said in the televised address from Bofa, some 120 kilometers west from the capital, Conakry. Guinea's former president Alpha Condé had been detained since last September when special forces troops overthrew him on allegations of fostering endemic state corruption. However, Condé was released in late April. Then, interim government said on state television, military leaders have snatched power in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea over the last 2 years, raising concerns of a backslide in democracy in West Africa that over the past decade had begun to seed its reputation as a cope belt. The copes have put the countries at odds with the region's main political and economic bloc. The Economics Committee of West African States, ECOWAS, which is trying to put power back in civilian hands.
UNHCR Special Envoy and U.S. actor Angelina Jolie visited a railway station in the Ukrainian city of Lviv on Saturday. Jolie met with and spoke to volunteers about the trauma of war and the support they had been given, especially to children.
I know that just having somebody show how much they matter, how much their voices matter, I know how healing that.
One volunteer had described how in a 24-hour period there could be 15 people that needed help. She ended her visit short when an air raid sirens blast. As she rushed out to safety, fans couldn't help themselves from asking for her selfies. At one point during her visit to the station, she tickled a small girl dressed in red who laughed out in delight. The UN Refugee Agency is expecting some 8.3 million people to flee Ukraine this year, revising up its previous projection. More than 12.7 million people have fled their homes in the past 2 months, including 7.7 million people displaced internally and more than 5 million who have fled over borders, UNHCR spokesperson Shabia Mantou told a UN news briefing. And now for a look at news making international headlines this Tuesday, 3rd May.
A leaked initial draft majority opinion suggests the U.S. Supreme Court will vote to overturn the Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion nationwide, Politico reported on Monday, May 2nd. Reuters was not immediately able to confirm the draft independently. If correct, it would be an unprecedented disclosure of a draft Supreme Court opinion. The Supreme Court and the White House declined to comment. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, Justice Samuel Alito wrote in the draft opinion, which is dated February 10th according to Politico. Four of the other Republican-appointed justices, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett voted with Alito in a conference held among the justices, the report added. It is possible there have been some changes since then. Political reporter Josh Gerstein, who broke the story, said on MSNBC late on Monday. After an initial vote among the justices following the oral argument, one is assigned the majority opinion and writes a draft. It is then circulated among the justices. At times, in between the initial vote and the ruling being released, the vote alignment can change. A ruling is only final when it is published by the court. In a post on Twitter, Neil Katyal, a lawyer who regularly argues before the court, said if the report was accurate, it would be the first major leak from the Supreme Court ever. The court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, heard oral arguments in December on Mississippi bids to revive its ban on abortion starting at 15 weeks of pregnancy, a law blocked by lower court. According to the Politico report, it appears based on December oral's argument that a majority was inclined to uphold Mississippi's abortion ban and that there could be 5 votes to overturn Roe. The 1973 Roe v. Wade decision recognized that the right to personal privacy under the U.S. Constitution protects a woman's ability to terminate her pregnancy. The Supreme Court in a 1992 ruling called Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania versus Casey reaffirmed abortion rights and prohibited laws imposing an undue burden on abortion's access. Mississippi asked the justices to overturn the Roe and Casey rulings.
Christine Geneva auctioned off a 228.31 carat pear-shaped diamond known as the Rock on the 11th of May. Rahul Kadika, international head of jewelry of Christine, said that in the 25 years he was here, this is the largest stone in the shade of they have in sale, so they expect a very high price. The white gemstone was mined and polished in South Africa over 2 decades ago. The May 11th auction will also feature a yellow 205.0 carat diamond known as the Red Cross diamond.
So quite unusual to have two 200-carat diamonds in one auction. The Red Cross diamond weighs 205 carats, was mined in 1901 at a De Beers mine, also in South Africa, and sold in 1918 at Christie's London at the Red Cross auction during the war.
The stone was offered for sale at the Diamond Syndicate. It achieved £10,000 or $12,500 when the entire auction achieved £50,000 or $62,500. It then came back for sale at Christine's in Geneva, this time in 1973, where it has achieved 1.8 million Swiss francs or $1.8 million. And now for the third time in 104 years, the Red Cross diamond will come up for sale again in Geneva on May the 11th. The fancy brilliant cut diamond gets yellow colour from its nitrogen atoms. Its estimated selling price is between $7 to $10 million. Part of the proceeds from the sale will go to International Red Cross. Kadaka says he is optimistic about the upcoming auction with investors who can grab the opportunity to buy art imported diamonds as a hedge against what's going on in the world.
When Hong Kong selects its new leader on May 8th, there will be only one candidate, the city's former deputy leader and former security official John Lee. Since 1997, there have been 4 chief executives, all of whom have struggled to balance the democratic aspirations of some residents within the vision of China's Communist Party leaders. The current election will be the first time since the city's return to Chinese rule with only one candidate in the running. The new chief executive takes office on July 1st. John Lee, who announced his intention to run for the city's top job on April 6 this year, only revealed his policy platform 3 weeks later, revealing on Friday that he intended to start a new chapter for Hong Kong. His policy proposals include enhancing the city's governance, increasing the housing supply, and maintaining its international status. Lee, who started his career as a policeman and has been closely involved with the implementation of a new security law introduced in 2020, was also Hong Kong's top security official during the mass pro-democracy protests of 2019. According to political scientist and former legislator Kenneth Chan, an associate professor at Hong Kong Baptist University, Beijing's de facto choice of Lee as the city's new leader reflects a desire to further tighten the city's security regime. Hong Kong selects a leader every 5 years under a process that Beijing oversees behind the scenes. The city's 7.4 million people have no say in who leads them. City leaders are chosen in a vote by an election committee stacked with pro-Beijing loyalists, ensuring that Beijing approves the decision. The election was initially scheduled for March but was postponed because of a COVID-19 outbreak in which more than 1 million people have been infected. In a major overhaul of Hong Kong's electoral system last year to meet Beijing's demands that only patriots run the city, the committee was enlarged to 1,500 from 1,200 members. The nomination process was also tightened, with all candidates requiring committee nominations and undergoing a subsequent screening process. Hong Kong's mini-constitution, the Basic Law, provides for the eventual implementation of universal suffrage for the territory is an eventual goal, but discontent over the electoral system has contributed to the city's massive protest movements in both 2014 and 2019. The Hong Kong government has repeatedly said that rights and protections, including freedom of speech, are protected by a new national security law that went into effect in 2020 and refers to the current electoral arrangements as an improvement over previous arrangements. Jerome Cohen, an emeritus professor at the New York University School of Law and an internationally renowned expert on Chinese politics, said he expected Hong Kong's integration with the security system in mainland China to be strengthened further under Lee's administration. Hong Kong residents speaking to Reuters said many young people now feel disconnected from the political process and that public interest in the new change of leadership was muted due to the inability or the option to choose their own leaders.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged the U.S.-ASEAN Business Council to continue investing and exploring more investment potential in Cambodia. The Prime Minister's urging came as he met with the U.S.-ASEAN Business Council, headed by Senior Vice President and Regional Managing Director Michael Michalak, to the Peace Palace on Thursday morning. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has the details.
During the meeting, the U.S.-ASEAN Business Council Senior Vice President and Regional Managing Director Michael Michalak thanked the Prime Minister for his support for business in the ASEAN region and also praised the Prime Minister's leadership of ASEAN. He further informed Prime Minister Hun Sen about the interests of his administration in the fields of energy, factory assembly, car assembly, and the promotion of the digital economy in Cambodia. In response, Prime Minister Hun Sen said he welcomed the involvement of the United States in the development of Cambodia's energy sector and encouraged U.S. investors to continue investing and exploring more investment potential in Cambodia. The Prime Minister's personal assistant Ing Supol Light told reporters after the meeting. The Prime Minister also welcomed the installation of a car assembly plant in Posat province and encouraged all companies to continue investing and seeking more potential to invest in Cambodia. Michael Michalak's delegation attending the meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen included 13 American company representatives. U.S. carmaker Ford has now begun its assembly line project in Cambodia, located in the Krakow Special Economic Zone in Posat province. The plant has an investment value of about $21 million. Dekanin, EAC News.
The president of the Cambodian Red Cross, First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen, celebrated National Midwifery Day on Thursday by congratulating the progress and achievements of the Ministry of Health in mobilizing the remaining Cambodian midwives after the Democratic Kampuchea regime, who have all overcome all obstacles and assisted women in antenatal care, childbirth, and postnatal care to achieve the development levels of today. She has also called on all midwives to continue doing good work and promoting reproductive health education to the public. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the story.
In the Cambodian Red Cross presidential congratulatory message for the National Midwife Day, First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen praised and thanked all Cambodian midwives who had sacrificed everything, including their personal and family health, to fulfill their duties even during the COVID-19 pandemic. She called on all midwives to continue educating members of the public on reproductive health, prevent disease transmission from mother to child, preventing unwanted pregnancies and pregnancy complications, providing contraception and other necessary services related to midwifery work. At the same time, she also called on all pregnant women to go to regular health checkups, deliver their babies at health centres and referral hospitals, to make sure they check up on their health after birth delivery and get their babies vaccinated. She further emphasised the importance of getting regular checkups for children and take any child, baby or toddler to the hospital if they develop a fever, show any symptoms of illness or breathing difficulties. She further thanked the Royal Government of Cambodia, the Ministry of Health, relevant institutions, national and international organisations, the private sector and development partners who have been supportive of midwifery. She added that she sincerely hopes that the Royal Government of Cambodia will continue to increase investment capacity and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Additionally, the Cambodian Red Cross and the National Elite Team will continue to actively cooperate with the Ministry of Health in dismantling key messages throughout the media to raise awareness on women's health, childbirth, postpartum care, elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis, the importance of breastfeeding, vaccinations for babies, and nutrition for children. The president of Cambodian Red Cross noted that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the healthcare system in Cambodia continued to operate throughout the country and achieve a decline in maternal mortality. For 170 deaths per 100,000 live birth deaths in 2014 to 141 deaths per 100,000 live births in 2019. At the same time, rate and birth conducted by skilled health workers increased from 85% in 2016 to 89% in 2020. And the birth rate as health facilities also increased from 80% to 89% during the same period. It should be noted that the National Midwifery Day is this year held under the theme, Investing in Midwives to Strengthen the Primary Health Care System and Provide a Pathway to Universal Health Coverage. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, and the ASEAN Secretary General, in his capacity as ASEAN Humanitarian Assistance Coordinator, Dato Lim Jak Hoi, will co-chair the consultative meeting on ASEAN humanitarian assistance to Myanmar on 6th May in Phnom Penh via video conference. EAC News reporter Dekanin has more details.
According to a press release issued on Thursday, 5th of May, the consultative meeting will be attended by high-level representatives from all ASEAN member states, ASEAN external partners, United Nations specialized agencies, and other relevant international organizations, both physically and virtually. The press release further states that the consultative meeting will provide a high-level platform for ASEAN to initiate a multi-stakeholder dialogue that serves to provide a guidance on how to advance ASEAN's humanitarian assistance to the people of Myanmar based on humanitarian principles and without discrimination. Additionally, all those in attendance at the meeting will discuss mutually agreeable solutions on how to enhance the delivery of humanitarian assistance in Myanmar whilst leaving no one behind, how to address the operational challenges faced by the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management, and how to support the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to all communities in Myanmar. Cambodia assumed the ASEAN chairmanship on the 1st of January 2022. Prime Minister Hun Sen appointed the Cambodian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, as the special envoy of the ASEAN chair. The Deputy Prime Minister made his first visit to Myanmar in March, where he met with Myanmar military leader Senior General Min Aung Hlaing and also delivered humanitarian assistance from Cambodia to a local hospital. Nikanin, EAC News.
The Australia-Cambodia Cooperation for Equitable Sustainable Services, or ACCESS, has released its 6-month employment report, which shows that the program has helped 610 persons with disabilities gain employment and 22 women with disabilities get entrepreneurship training, with the support and promotion of the Secretary General of the Disability Action Council. EAC News reporter Dekanin has the story.
During the hybrid 10th Disability Workstream meeting, the second secretary of the Australian Embassy to Cambodia, Connor Floyd, stated that over the 6 months between October 2021 to March 2022, ACCESS helped rehabilitate a total of 9,686 persons with disabilities, including 3,226 women. In addition, the program also helped a total of 610 persons with disabilities get job opportunities. From this number, 24 were self-employed, 43 were employed in various institutions, 13 employed in business loans, and 497 employed in vocational training and counseling. There were also other activities under the program related to strengthening gender equality, disaster response, fighting cooperation, and data collection. The second secretary also expressed support for Australian-Cambodian partnership and hoped that employment activities in the field of disability in Cambodia will continue to grow. Floyd said, "I am confident that through our large access partnership, mobilizing strong expertise and commitment, and under Secretary of State M. Jamakara's guidance, we can address these challenges. As my colleagues and I turn to the end of program review and design of the Access Successor program, maybe called Access 2, will take place from July 2022, disability inclusion at all levels, including in policies formulation, programming, and implementation is the front of our minds." According to the head of the disability program, Ju Vivot, Access has contributed to the implementation of the National Disability Strategic Plan 2019 to 2023 by helping persons with disabilities find employment, access health services and rehabilitation, and also facilitated gender equality, disaster response, cooperation, and the collection of disability data. The head of the program further added that from October 2021 to March 2022, Access organized a national forum on employment and business with a disability-friendly environment and set up a mobile phone program to help persons with disabilities called OKA. In organizing the Okah mobile app, Access also compiled and collected data from persons with disabilities, which found that more than 140,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia are unemployed. This is according to the Director of Welfare at the Ministry of Social Affairs, Yip Malino. He added that the government is currently mobilizing the private sector to participate in the recruitment and reception of persons with disabilities. He said, "We now manage persons with disabilities and the needs of the labor market. So persons with disabilities have the opportunity to get jobs and economic opportunities." Speaking at a meeting, the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Social Affairs and Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, Mclaren, requested a study on why more than 140,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia are unemployed, in order to develop new strategies to help them. He said, "If we can complete the research on the education levels of the 140,000 people, we can conclude the strategies needed to help them." The Secretary of State also expressed his appreciation for the achievements made by the Access program and encouraged the work done in the past 6 months to be implemented in the next quarter to even better results. He added that the participation of representatives of ministries, government institutions at both the national and subnational levels, and from partner organizations greatly contributes to the implementation of the current National Disability Strategic Plan, especially on key priorities such as support mechanisms, facilitation of the disability sector at both the national and subnational levels, support access to rehabilitation services, health services, legal services, employment and business opportunities, and other support services to access various benefits from the implementation of environmentally friendly social protection programs, and facilitating the participation of persons with disabilities in policy making, implementation, and program monitoring. Under Access, a total of 4,170 employment opportunities were created for persons with disabilities by the end of 2021. From this number, 156 received employment, 243 were self-employed, and 57 women were trained to become entrepreneurs. Access is a 5-year initiative with financial support from the Australian government provided through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. In the last 3 years, Australia has pledged 50 million Australian dollars through Access to improve quality, sustainability, and integrate services for persons with disabilities and for women affected by gender-based violence. The Australian government is currently planning to add another 10 million Australian dollars through Access for the remaining 2 years of the 5-year program to reflect the Royal Government's COVID-19 response and recovery efforts, including its priorities on social protection. Dekanin, EAC News.
The Minister of Public Works and Transport, Senior Minister Sun Chantol, said that when the Kampot Logistics and Multipurpose Port Investment Project is completed, it will provide about 10,000 jobs. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony on Thursday, the 5th of May, of the construction of the Kampot Logistics and Multipurpose Port Investment Project in Bokor City, Kampot Province, Senior Minister Sun Chantol said that this port will play an important role in organising logistic warehouses, a special economic zone and fuel and gas centres in Cambodia. This port will complete the work of the Sihanoukville Autonomous Port of Phnom Penh. He said that if the port can access the Basak River, it will play an important role in transporting our agricultural products across the country through the waterways to the sea, to the port of Kampot and export abroad. The Senior Minister added that the port will be developed in 3 stages, with the first stop being prepared to port to handle 300,000 TEUs by 2025 and 600,000 TEUs by 2030. The port has a depth of 15 to 16 metres and can allow ships up to 100,000 tonnes to dock. The port can be a special economic zone, special trade zone, a liquid storage facility for LNG, LPG, oil, all of which are included with the port project plan, within the first phase costing $200 million. The budget will go up to $1.5 billion in later phases. The Minister of Public Works and Transport also stated the construction and investment centre, logistics centre and multi-purpose port of Kampot Logistics and Export Co Limited will contribute to the development of Cambodia to be more prosperous and become a high-income country by 2050. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Former political prisoner Christina Bawagan still has the dress she wore the day she was arrested, tortured, and sexually abused by soldiers during the late Philippines dictator Ferdinand Marcos's brutal era of martial law.
Bawagan fears the horrors of Marcos' rule would be diminished if his namesake son wins the presidency in next week's election, a victory that would cap a 3-decade political fight back for a family driven out in a 1986 People Power uprising. Also known as Bong Bong, Marcos Jr. has benefited from what some political analysts describe as a decades-long public relations effort to alter perceptions of his family, accused of living lavishly at the helm of one of Asia's most notorious kleptocracies. Rivals of the family say the presidential run is an attempt to rewrite history and change the narrative of corruption and authoritarianism associated with his father's era. A fact-checking initiative for the May 9th vote told reporters last month it has debunked scores of martial law-related disinformation it says were used to rehabilitate, erase, or burnish the discreditable record of Marcos Sr. Marcos Jr.'s camp did not reply to written requests for comment from Reuters on Babagan's story. Marcos Jr., who last week called his late father a political genius, has previously denied claims of spreading misinformation, and his spokesperson has said Marcos does not engage in negative campaigning. Babagan, 67, said martial law victims like her needed to share their stories to counter the portrayal of the elder Marcos regime as a peaceful golden age for the Southeast Asian country. Babagan said it is very important for people to see primary evidence that it really happened, while showing the printed dress which had a tear below the neckline where her torturer passed a blade across her chest and fondled her breast. The elder Marcos ruled for 2 decades from 1965, almost half of it under martial law. During that time, 70,000 people were imprisoned, 34,000 were tortured, and 3,240 were killed, according to figures from Amnesty International, figures which Marcos Jr. questioned in a January interview. Babagan, an activist, was arrested on May 27, 1981 by soldiers in the province of Nueva Ecija for alleged subversion and brought to a safe house where she was beaten as they tried to extract a confession from her. The hardest thing was when they put an object in my vagina. That was the worst part of it, and all throughout I was screaming. No one seemed to hear, said Babagan, a mother of 2. In a conversation with Marcos Jr. that appeared on YouTube in 2018, Juan Ponce Enrile, who served as the late dictator's defense minister, said not one person was arrested for their political and religious views or for criticizing the elder Marcos. However, more than 11,000 victims of state brutality during martial law later received reparations using millions from Marcos' Swiss bank deposits, part of billions the family siphoned off from the country's coffers and recovered by the Philippine government. Among them was Felix Dalisay, who was detained for 17 months from August 1973 after he was beaten and tortured by soldiers trying to force him to inform on other activists, causing him to suffer hearing loss. Dalisay said on the day of his arrest, he was kicked even before boarding a military jeep, so he fell and hit his face on the ground, resulting in a scar on his right eye. When they reached the military headquarters, Dalisay said he was brought to an interrogation room where soldiers repeatedly clapped his ears, kicked and hit him, sometimes with a butt of a rifle during questioning. They, the military, started by inserting bullets between my fingers and would slowly squeeze my hand. The soldiers were really strong and it was painful. They had many questions, and if they weren't satisfied with my answers, they would hit me, said Dalisay, pointing to different parts of his body. The return of Marcos to the country's seats of power is unthinkable for Dalisay, who turned 70 this month. It makes my blood boil, said Dalisay. The Marcos family will be back. The trauma during the times of the martial law, it all comes back. With Marcos' return, the memories of torture have all returned.
Donetsk Region Police released video on Wednesday it said shows an attack at a coking plant of Ukraine's largest steelmaker in the eastern frontline city of Avdiivka, in which 10 workers were killed. The workers were killed at a bus stop on Tuesday, 3rd of May, as they waited for a bus to take them home after they finished their shift at the factory, the Donetsk governor Pavlo Kirilenko said. The video showed an explosion and people running to take cover as explosions were heard, as well as damage to the surrounding area and what appeared to be a number of body bags being placed in a van. Steelmaker Metinvest said on Wednesday it had offered to evacuate staff from the coking plant after the Russian shelling. The video was released on the police force's official YouTube channel. The locations of the video were verified by nearby buildings, Street View on Google Maps, and by file imagery of Avdiivka coking plant. Prime Minister Hun Sen posted a message of condolence on the passing of his brother Hun Neng, who died of a heart attack on Thursday, 5th May. In a message posted by the Prime Minister on his official Facebook page with a photo attached of his phone background showing the Prime Minister standing next to his brother, he wrote, "Brothers have been separated without saying goodbye and talking to each other. Not even one word. This time we will be separated forever and will never be reunited." Prime Minister Hun Sen's brother Hun Neng died at the age of 72 from a heart attack around 6:25 p.m. on Thursday, 5th May. His body will be kept at his home in Kampong Cham City for the funeral rites, and his body will be laid to rest at Wat Sowan Kiriratanak Panampro in Krolak Commune, Kampong Siem District of Kampong Cham Province on Monday, 9th May. Hun Ning was the chairman of the National Assembly's Commission on Interior, National Defense, and Civil Service, and a National Assembly lawmaker representing Kampong Cham Province. Many members of government, civil servants, and members of opposition parties have sent condolences for his passing. The Cambodian People's Party has said that Hun Ning had acted in all ways to serve the interests of society, religion, the king, and the CPP, which the party will remember and make sure to record so that the nation will always remember too. The CPP wrote, "The party would like to record all the heroic deeds and ideals His Excellency Hun Ning left for the nation and the people of Cambodia." On Thursday, 5th May, the chairman of the National Assembly's Commission on Interior and Prime Minister Hun Sen's older brother, Hun Ning, died from a heart attack. Here is a reflection on his life and achievements from EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis.
Hun Ning was born as Hun Long Seng on Sunday, the 2nd of April 1950, in Prem Krau Village, Prem Kosna Commune, Sang Trang District, Kampong Cham Province, to a family of farmers. His father was named Hun Ning, and his mother was Depok. He was the second born among 6 children, and he had 3 sisters. He married his wife, Leng Reng Cheng, in 1971 and had 6 children, 3 daughters and 3 sons. As the child of a farmer before 1970, he struggled with his studies at Pem Ko Sna Primary School and continued at Stung Tlan Secondary College. He went to pursue a master's degree in economics and administration in 1997. And also received honorary doctorates from some national and international universities. During the Khmer Rouge between 1970 to 1975, he was living with liberated areas of his homeland, and after the country fell under the genocidal regime of Pol Pot, he joined the army of the Kampuchea United Front for the National Salvation. He was also appointed as the director of Kampong Cham Provincial Department in 1979, the director of Kampong Cham Provincial Planning Department in 1981, the governor of Krok Chama District in 1982, and the governor of Kampong Cham Province in 1984. He became governor of Slater Province in 1999 and returned as the governor of Kampong Cham Province in 2005. When he retired in 2013, he was nominated and elected as a member of National Assembly for Kampong Cham Province and was further elected as a member of National Assembly Standing Committee and the chairman of the National Assembly's Committee on Interior, National Defence of Public Works, positions he remained until his passing. Through his sacrifices for the nation, religion, and the king, he was awarded many medals by the king, with the highest medal in Kingdom of Cambodia being the Chi Topaka class. Throughout Hun Ning's life, especially when he came to lead the Kampong Cham and Svay Ring provinces, he was always engaged in social and humanitarian work under the leadership of the royal government under Prime Minister Hun Sen. Through his many activities, he gained the respect of the government officials, the armed forces, monks, and citizens. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The chairman of the National Assembly's Commission on Interior and older brother of Prime Minister Hun Sen, Hun Ning, has passed away on Thursday, 5th May in Kampong Cham Province from a heart attack. Since the announcement of his passing, condolence messages from across the country have been pouring in, including from the former president of the Cambodian National Rescue Party, Kem Sokha. Cambodia mourns the loss of Prime Minister Hun Sen's older brother, Hun Ning. Condolence messages from all quarters have been pouring in, including from government officials, civil servants, and opposition party members. The president of the former Cambodia National Rescue Party, Kem Sokha, also sent a message of condolence to Prime Minister Hun Sen on the death of his brother, saying that he prayed for the soul of Hun Ning to go to heaven. Kem Sokha wrote, "My wife and I are deeply saddened to learn that His Excellency Hun Ning, Samdech Tekcho's brother, died of a heart attack this evening, May 5, 2022, at the age of 72. On this sad occasion, my wife and I would like to share the great grief with Samdech Tekcho and his family and dedicate our prayers for the soul of His Excellency Hun Ning to go to heaven." Prime Minister Hun Sen also responded to the message, thanking Kem Sokha for his condolences on the death of Hun Ning. The Prime Minister wrote, "On behalf of the whole family, I would like to thank Your Excellency and Lok Chum Tiu for the condolence letter that Your Excellency and Lok Chum Tiu sent on the occasion of this great loss in my family. Please, Excellencies and Lok Chim Theus, receive the love and affection from me and my family. Hun Neng died at the age of 72 at around 6:25 p.m. on Thursday, 5th May, from a heart attack. His body is currently being kept by his family at his home in Kampong Cham province and will be laid to rest at Wat Sovan Kiri Ratanak Phnom Pro in Kampong Siem district of Kampong Cham province on Monday, 9th May. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations convened a meeting on Friday, 6th May in Phnom Penh to consult on ASEAN humanitarian assistance to Myanmar. The meeting was chaired by the Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair on Myanmar and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cambodia, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, and the ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Jak Hoi, with the participation of officials from all 10 ASEAN member states. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the story.
The Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair of Myanmar, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, reiterated the need to implement of ASEAN 5-point consensus to help the people of Myanmar. He added that the ASEAN's assistance to Myanmar is needed to support humanitarian activities, as well as the vaccine people against COVID-19. He highlighted the importance of the ASEAN Coordination Centre of the Humanitarian Aid and Disaster Management to implement this work. The chairman of Myanmar Humanitarian Assistance Coordination Team, Koko Lan, said at opening of the meeting that he thanked the Cambodia for its assistance to Myanmar in assisting humanitarian aid, and said that the country was committed to cooperating with ASEAN and achieve the implementation of the ASEAN 5-point consensus as well. ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Jak Hoi said that so far the ASEAN has raised more than $15 million from the ASEAN members and partners, which he said has helped support ASEAN disaster response and help provide humanitarian assistance to Myanmar as well. He also thanked the Myanmar government for supporting and facilitating the delivery of humanitarian assistance as the ASEAN Myanmar. The ASEAN 5-point consensus for Myanmar includes the senses of violence, the establishment of dialogue between all parties, the corporation of ASEAN special envoys, the provision of humanitarian assistance, and allowing the special envoys to visit Myanmar to fulfill their responsibilities. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair on Myanmar, Deputy Foreign Minister Prak Sokhonn, said that ASEAN has decided to assign the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management to work with the Myanmar Ministry of Health in a national COVID-19 vaccine campaign. This collaboration will use a 50 out of 50 model, which means that medical staff from ASEAN countries and organizations will send half a team of doctors for the vaccination campaign, while the other half will comprise of doctors from Myanmar. Speaking at a press conference on the afternoon of Friday, 6 April 2022, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn confirmed that the decision was to boost vaccination efforts in Myanmar and to make sure that the Myanmar people, especially those in need and living in remote areas, have access to vaccines. He attributed ASEAN's decision to launch this campaign to a lack of medical staff and security concerns in the country, which made many members of the public not feel comfortable going to places where vaccines were offered.
ដើម្បីដោះស្រាយបញ្ហាគឺយើងក៏បានស្នើរូបមន្ត50នេះដោយខាងប្រទេសអ្នកផ្ដល់ជំនួយឬក៏អង្គការអ្នកផ្ដល់ជំនួយហ្នឹងគឺមានចំនួន 50% ហ្នឹងទៅហើយឯបុគ្គលិករបស់ក្រសួងសុខាភិបាលមានចំនួន 50% ផងដែរ
He added that in addition, the AHA Center will check the locations of COVID-19 vaccination sites and recommend potential donors and partners to support vaccinations in Myanmar. Vaccination under this condition will be jointly overseen by ASEAN and the Ministry of Health of Myanmar. In addition, Myanmar needs to waive tariffs and work toward other facilitations that could bring vaccines into Myanmar, as well as to facilitate access to vaccinations in areas under the control of ethnic armed groups. To provide ASEAN humanitarian assistance to Myanmar, ASEAN Dialogue partners and UN representatives held a full-day meeting on Friday, 6th May, to seek further solutions on the implementation of the ASEAN 5-point consensus and to promote effective assistance. According to Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, after the ASEAN member meeting, dialogue partners and donors expressed firm commitment to pushing this work forward. The ASEAN 5-point consensus includes the call for an end to violence, the establishment of multilateral dialogue, the acceptance of the coordination of the ASEAN Special Envoy, the provision of humanitarian assistance, and the allowance of the Special Envoy to fulfill their duties and visit Myanmar. Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn also revealed that he will pay a second visit to Myanmar in the coming weeks. The Ministry of Labor and Vocational Training has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Helen Keller International and German Agency for International Cooperation to implement pilot projects that aim to improve the health and nutrition of infants and children in factories. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more details.
On Wednesday, 4th of May, the Minister of Labour, Id Samheng, said that the MOU was valid for 15 months and was signed together with the Helen Keller International County Director, Gwyneth Coates, and Mustafa Project Director, Farid Salimi. The MOU was signed in regard to implementation of the pilot projects to improve the health, nutrition and feeding of infants and children in factories in accordance with the rectangular strategy to continue to the productivity as well as being of workers and in turn the Cambodian economy. The Minister said that the project focuses on 18 factories that have a total of 21,166 workers and the will to provide training on the importance of infant and children health and nutrition, as well as children wearing to employees and workers' representatives, workers of reproductive age, and workers who can currently pregnant and breastfeeding. At the signing ceremony, Gwyneth Coates stated that Helen Keller International is currently piloting a project to improve the health and nutrition of women and children in a number of factories by supporting in the Giz Mustafa project and jointly promoting health, productivity, and the Cambodian economy. The program focuses on educating staff on the importance of health and nutrition, such as the importance of nutrition in health promotion and prevention of various diseases, the benefits of a high nutrient diet, maternity and postpartum health, as well as education on raising infants and young children while working, to ensure that their children are healthy and can grow up to become high potential citizens who will boost the national economy in the future. She added that the project will provide educational materials and equipment such as refrigerators, tables, chairs, fans, breast pumps, hand towels, and hand soap to existing breastfeeding rooms in each of the targeted factories. She also said that the Royal Government of Cambodia has supported the project and will achieve 85% better nutrition and 85% industrial breastfeeding rates by 2030. The Minister of Labour said that he considers the project having made a significant contribution to improving the health and hygiene of women and children. He added that the ministry is developing its services and issuing new standards for more efficiency. He expects the project not only to improve work conditions, but also boost the national economy. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
A man who said he is a medic treating people in Mariupol's Azovstal steel plant made a video appeal for help to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In the video released on Thursday, the man identified himself as a Crimean Tatar Muslim known by his nom de guerre Hassan. He then appealed to Turkey as Ukraine's neighbor and ally to help evacuate the steelworks. He said, "Recep Tayyip Erdogan, I do not remember which day of the war it is. People are dying, some from wounds, some from starvation. They die in agony because of lack of medication, because of horrible conditions. We have no time. I do not know if there is tomorrow for me. I am a Crimean Tatar, a Muslim. Before the invasion, I completed medical training. Now I give medical help to the wounded at Azovstal. Until the war, I have never faced death. I used to work as an ambulance medic. I helped people the best way I could. It hurts to see how people die in your arms just because there are not enough antibiotics. In 2022, we are permanently under fire from the air, the sea, and the land. My dream is to evacuate all the people, including the military, from the territory of Azovstal. To stop this horror, just 160 kilometers away across the sea from you. People are being killed, people whose only aim is to defend their land, women and children. We have not attacked anyone. You yourself know from your history what it feels like when someone wants to take your land and kill the people. Turkey and Ukraine have always had close relationship and supported each other. You and your country are an important player in the political life of our region. We do not know who else we can write to or address. That is why I appeal to you. I truly believe that you will not leave us alone and that you will help us. I believe that anyone who takes part in helping us will be rewarded. Reuters could not independently verify the authenticity of the video. The man was pictured with men in military uniform on his social media account, and the video of his appeal to Turkey was shared by the far-right founder of the Azov regiment, Andrei Biletsky. Scores of Ukrainian civilians, including women and children, remained trapped on Thursday in a Mariupol steelworks that has been rocked by heavy explosions as Russian forces fight for control of Ukraine's last stronghold in the ruined port city. The United Nations said a new operation was underway to evacuate more people from Mariupol and the Azovstal steel plant, where an estimated 200 civilians are still holed up in underground bunkers with little food or water. The Azov regiment began as a battalion of mostly far-right volunteers after Russian-backed separatists seized parts of the eastern Donbas region in 2014. Kyiv later made it a unit of the National Guard and said it was reformed. Russia says destroying the group is a key war aim. Almost 3 times as many people have died as a result of COVID-19 as official data show, according to a new World Health Organization report, the most comprehensive look at the true global toll of the pandemic so far.
There were 14.9 million excess deaths associated with COVID-19 by the end of 2021, the UN body said on Thursday, 5th of May. The official count of deaths directly attributed to COVID-19 and reported to WHO in this period, from January 2020 to the end of December 2021, is slightly more than 5.4 million. The WHO's excess mortality figures reflected people who died of COVID-19 as well as those who died as an instant result of an outbreak, including people who could not access healthcare for other conditions when symptoms were overwhelming during the huge waves of the infection. It also accounts for deaths averted during the pandemic, for example, because of lower risk in traffic accidents during lockdowns. But the numbers are also far higher than the official tally because of the deaths that were missed in countries without adequate reporting. Even pre-pandemic, around the 6 to 10 deaths around the world were not registered, WHO said. The WHO report said that almost half of the deaths that until now had been counted were in India. The report suggests that 4.7 million people died there as a result of the pandemic, mainly during the huge surge in May and June 2021. The Indian government, however, puts its death toll in January 2020, December 2021, the period of lower, about 480,000. WHO said it had not yet fully examined the new data provided this week by India, which has pushed back against the WHO estimates and issued its own mortality figures for all cases of death in 2020 on Tuesday. WHO said it may be a disclaimer to report highlighting the ongoing conversation with India. In a statement issued after numbers were published, the Indian government said WHO had released a report without adequately addressing Indians' concerns over what is called questionable methods. The WHO panel, made up international experts who have been working on the data for months, used a combination of national and local information, as well as statistics models, to estimate totals where data is incomplete, a methodology that India has criticised. However, other independent assessments have also put the death toll in India far higher than the official government tally, including a report published in Science which suggests that 3 million people may have died of COVID in the country. Other models have also reached similar conclusions about the global death toll being far higher than the recorded statistics. For comparison, around 50 million people have thought to have died with the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, and 36 million have died of the HIV since the epidemic began in the 1980s. Samara Asma, WHO Assistant Director General for Data, Analytics and Delivery for Impact, who co-led the calculation process, said data was that lively blood of public health, needed to access and learn from what happened during the pandemic.
Too much is unknown and there is too much delays in getting life and death information.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Wednesday, 4th May.
Senate Democrats will put forward a bill that will codify abortion rights into law this week, with a vote taking place next week. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said at a weekly press conference on Tuesday, May 3rd. The announcement comes after a leaked draft decision showed a majority of the country's top court would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, the legal precedent ensuring abortion access for Americans.
Republicans are spending all their focus on the leak because they don't want to talk about Roe v. Wade, where they know they're on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of American people. Let me say it again. Republicans are spending all their focus on the leak because they don't want to focus on Roe v. Wade, where they know they're on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of the American people. Try as they might, they can't distract from the truth. The blame for this decision falls squarely on Senate Republicans who spent years pushing extremist judges and justices while claiming this day would never come. But come it has. So in light of this potential ruling, I want to make three things very clear. First, it is our intention for the Senate to hold a vote on legislation to codify the right to an abortion in law. Second, a vote on this legislation is no longer an abstract exercise. This is as urgent and as real as it gets. We will vote to protect a woman's right to choose, and every American is going to see which side every senator stands on. Third, to the American people, I say this: the elections this November will have consequences because the rights of 100 million women are now on the ballot.
Biden has said that voters will need to elect more members of Congress who support abortion rights so that they can pass legislation making Roe v. Wade the law of the land. The Roe decision recognized that the right to personal privacy under the U.S. Constitution protects a woman's ability to terminate her pregnancy. Chief Justice John Roberts announced an investigation into how the draft authored by Justice Samuel Alito of the court's conservative 6-3 majority was leaked, calling it a betrayal of the confidentiality of the judicial process. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell on Tuesday called for investigation of the leak.
And I hope that the leaker, who is extremely likely to be found given the limited number of people who have the ability to access early drafts of opinions, will be dealt with as severely as the law may allow.
Senator Elizabeth Warren was seen blasting the Supreme Court hours after the draft leak. She said that the burden of this ruling would not fall on rich women who will have the means to protect themselves, but on the poorest women in the country. She vows to do what she can to protect the rights of women.
And I am here because the United States Congress can change all of this. Yes, it Angry but committed. Understand this. Understand this. I have seen the world where abortion is illegal. And we are not going back. Not ever.
If Roe is overturned, abortion is likely to remain legal in liberal states. More than a dozen states have laws protecting abortion rights. Numerous Republican-led states have passed various abortion restrictions in defiance of the Roe precedent in recent years.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on Tuesday the 3rd of May that no one could assume that Russia would not attack other countries and Germany would support Finland and Sweden if they decide to join NATO. If these two countries decide to join the NATO alliance, then they can count on our support, Scholz told reporters after hosting the Swedish and Finnish leaders at a two-day cabinet retreat both in Berlin. He continued to say that it was clear that all the borders would not be moved by force and that the country's sovereignties must be respected. Russia broke this law and that's why no one can assume that the Russian president and the Russian government will not break the law with violence in other countries at other opportunity. That's the reason why he and friendly countries decided to expand their defence spending. Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin said that European Union sanctions against Russia should be expanded, while Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson vowed to increase her country's defence spending to 2% of the GDPs as soon as is practically possible.
Inmates in Bolivia's overcrowded prisons are now able to knock small amounts of time off their jail sentences by reading books in a novel program copied from Brazil that aims to spread literacy and give hope despite a notoriously slow judicial process. The state program, Books Behind Bars, offers a chance to get out of jail days or weeks early. Bolivia does not have a life sentence or death penalty, but preventive detention can last for many years due to a slow judicial system. The program has been launched in 47 prisons that do not have resources resources to pay for education, reintegration, or social assistance programs for prisoners, the Andean country's Ombudsman Office says. So far, 865 inmates are sifting through sentences of prose to edge closer to freedom while improving their reading and writing skills. One inmate is Jacqueline, who has already read 8 books in a year and has passed 4 reading tests. It's really hard for people like us who do not have relatives outside, who have no income, she said. There are people here, for example, who are just learning how to read and write. Nadia Cruz with the Ombudsman's office explained that the main focus of the program was giving hope to inmates awaiting trial, trapped by the country's notoriously slow justice system. This is important because what is reduced on the sentences is relatively little. It is hours or days in some cases, depending on what the board decides, she told Reuters. It varies from prison to prison and from book to book. With a daily salary of 8 Bolivianos, which is equivalent to $1.18, the inmates are forced to work to be able to eat and pay the high court costs if they ever want to get out. Baking bread, knitting, or doing laundry for outside clients are some of the jobs available. Without this income, inmates cannot afford to purchase goods such as toiletries. Learning to read can help escape the prison walls, at least in the mind, said Mildred, an inmate at the Obrajes Women's Prison in the Highland city of La Paz. When I read, I am in contact with the whole universe. The walls and bars disappear, she said.
Yo he visto que el hip hop para ellos es una forma de expresión muy fuerte.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Thursday, 5th of May.
Mexican police found 280 migrants trapped behind a fake wall inside a truck abandoned on a highway near the southern town of Cordoba on Tuesday, May 3rd. According to a report from the Veracruz police, the migrants were from Nicaragua, El Salvador, Cuba, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Honduras, of which 18 of them were minors. Locals realized the migrants were trapped after they heard screams coming from a truck that broke down. Red Cross worker Jorge Garcia told Reuters. 3 migrants were taken to the hospital for dehydration. Police placed the migrants under the custody of the National Migration Institute, who will determine their legal status in the country.
Political counterparts have exploited and continued under-regulated growth of social media platforms for their own propaganda in the upcoming presidential elections in Colombia, where virtual reality is turning an advertising industry upside down. There is considerable concern about the role that social media, such as Meta platforms and Twitter, play in promoting propaganda during campaigns for the elections due to be held on May 29th. Between the 2 most likely candidates in Colombia, Meta would have been paid at least $250,000 with carefully targeted ads. Luisa Izala, a researcher at Green Lantern, said segments advertising is a valuable tool in generating more leads on social media, whether its candidates are targeting a specific neighborhood or the whole country. Despite the data transparent efforts offering by Meta through its open library, it is impossible to guarantee the legality of campaign financing. Izala suggested that the law should be equalize opportunities for candidates because some of them do not have enough money to pay for advertising and publicity like others. Algenaro Barra, the director of electoral observation missions, said that Colombia has built a control system for financing of political campaigns and elaborated in such a way that it does not work. She added that the interactions generated from online advertising may well come from real citizens, bots, trolls, and even external interests. She noted that her country's electoral authority is not strong enough to monitor the resources spent on campaigning in terms of validity and legality in Colombian law, especially with the presence of large territories with illegal economics. On the other hand, Isa said that we also know that more publicity does not necessarily mean a successful election. For example, the candidate Franca Marquez invested very little and still she was relevant to achieve good results. It should be noted that in recent years there is a continuous debate on social media propaganda around elections in America, France, Philippines, and more.
A Chinese expedition team successfully finished its latest comprehensive scientific expedition mission on Mount Chomolungma, or Mount Everest, on Wednesday, setting a number of new world records at the summit of the world's highest peak. The Chinese scientists involved in the expedition successfully reached the summit of the world's highest mountain, Mount Chomolungma, and established the world's highest automatic weather station at around 8,800 meters above sea level, just beneath the summit, a senior researcher said on Wednesday. At 12:46 local time on Wednesday, Wednesday, a total of 13 members of the Chinese expedition team reached the summit of Mount Chomolungma at a height of 8,848.86 meters, successfully set up the automatic weather station with the highest altitude in the world, and completed the most critical and challenging comprehensive task of their peak scientific research in order to study the climate change and its impact on the very high altitude area of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau under the background of global warming. 8 weather stations were set up from 5,200 meters to 8,830 meters above sea level, among which 4 stations were set up at the altitude of over 7,000 meters above sea level, realizing complete gradient meteorological observation at various altitudes of Mount Chomolungma. Yao Tandong, the leader of the expedition team, who is also an academician with the Institute of Tibetan Plateau Research under the Chinese Academy of Sciences, said they were able to lay a good foundation for a comprehensive scientific expedition and achieved success. The expedition team also transmitted meteorological data from the altitude of 8,830 meters above sea level to the Chomolungma base camp at the altitude of 5,200 meters above sea level for the first time. They used a glacier radar to measure the thickness of snow and ice and collected samples at the summit. In the next step, the expedition team will take advantage of the self-developed Type 3 Jimu No. 1 floating airship to carry out comprehensive scientific observation of the upper atmosphere. More than 270 members in 5 teams participated in the expedition, with the coverage of the largest number of academic disciplines, the participation of the largest number of scientific researchers, and with the use of the most advanced equipment. The expedition has been the largest since the survey on the Qinghai Tibet Plateau started in 2017. And now for a look at news-making international headlines this Friday, 6th May.
Under Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief.
A third operation is underway to evacuate civilians from Ukrainian port city of Mariupol and the besotted Azovstal steel plant, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said on Thursday the 5th of May, as Russia accused the West of waging an economic world war. The United Nations and International Committee of the Red Cross has so far helped nearly 500 civilians flee the area during the 2 operations in the past week. At the briefing to the UN Secretary Council, Guterres declined to give details on the new operation to avoid undermining possible success. I hope that his continued cooperation with Moscow and Kyiv will lead to more humanitarian pauses to allow civilian safe passage from the fighting and the aid to reach those in critical need, he told the 15-member council. We must continue to do all we can to get people out of these hellscapes. Guterres has also warned that if the war in Ukraine was putting even more pressure on the developing world. He told the Security Council he was ready to facilitate talks on regulating Ukraine's agricultural production and the food and fertilizer production of Russia and Belarus world markets despite the war. UN Human Relief Chief Michelle Blanchett told the Security Council that for the 5 weeks from the late February in areas around Kyiv, Russian forces targeted male civilians who were considered suspicious. Russia has denied attacking civilians. Men were detained, beaten, summarily executed, and in some cases taken to Belarus and Russia unbeknownst to their families and held in pre-trial detention facilities, she said. Since Russia invaded neighbouring Ukraine on February the 24th in what Moscow calls a special military operation, the United States and Western allies have hit back through tough sanctions. If it is as if you were eagerly awaiting this moment to unleash prescription against Russia, Russian's UN Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia told the Council. If we were to talk about world war, then without a doubt it's being waged at economic level today. US Ambassador to United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield accused Russia of lying to the Security Council. Russia alone started this war and Russia alone can end it. Silence the guns, withdraw from Ukraine territory and embrace diplomacy, she said.
At least 3 people were killed in what police suspect was a Palestinian attack in the central cities of Eilat on Thursday. Police investigators and ambulance were at the scenes of attacks on Thursday night, and helicopter flew overhead. Witnesses and emergency responders said the attacker used axe. Police set up roadblocks to try to catch the assailant who fled the scenes about 15 kilometers from Deaville. On television, Eilat mayors urged residents to stay indoors while security forces were still operating. Health officials said 3 people were killed and 2 others were being treated with serious slash wounds. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas condemned the attacks. The official Palestinian news agency Wafa quoted him as saying, "The killing of Palestinians and Israeli civilians will only lead to more deteriorations of the situation." There have been a spate of Arab street attacks in Israel in recent weeks. Prior to Eid, Palestinians and members of racial Arab minority had killed 15 people, including 3 police officers and a security guard, in attacks in Israel and the West Bank that have mostly targeted civilians. Israel has responded with arrests, raids in Palestine town and villages which have often sparked clash and brought the numbers of Palestinians killed by Israel forces since the beginnings of the year to at least 40. Early on Thursday, confrontation again broke out between Palestinian and Israel police at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem Old City, though they were far more limited than clash that had erupted weekly over the past month. Jewish visitors were allowed into the area on Thursday after their entrance to the site had been suspended for the last 10 days of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Al-Aqsa Mosque in Islam's third holiest site. The compound is Judaism's holiest site and the vestige of 2 ancient Jewish temples.
CCTV cameras in Andover, Kansas have captured a tornado churning through the city. The security camera footage was taken from Andover City Hall on April 29th. It shows the tornado moving closer to the building's parking lot. A powerful low-pressure system approached Kansas, allowing a sharp dry line and a track generally along Interstate 135. Storms first developed across the central of northeast Kansas near the warm front, but at the early evenings continued. A couple of storms fired just east of Wichita. One of these storms produced a strong tornado across the east side of Andover, causing extensive damage. This same storm produced numerous additional tornadoes as it tracked east. Residents received warnings from the National Weather Service 8 minutes before the tornado struck. Their quick response and warnings prevented more severe injuries and fatalities, says Charles Haynes, a meteorologist with the service. They sheltered in homes, they sheltered in businesses, they sought shelter at any place they possibly could to get out of the harm's way, he said. No facilities were reported as a result of tornadoes, but over 1,000 buildings were damaged. Storms could continue to fire up, pushing off the northeast. The main threats were hail, damaged winds, and an isolated tornado or two.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia of Italy won his duel with world champion Fabio Quartararo of Yamaha in commanding fashion as he clinched his first victory of the season at the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez on Sunday.
Aprilia's Alex Espargaro of Spain overcame a slow start to secure third, while 6 times MotoGP world champion and local favorite Marc Marquez held off Bagnaglia's teammate Jack Miller to take fourth. Pole sitter Bagnaia, who set a new lap record at the Jerez circuit, is qualifying on Saturday, April 30th, flew out of the traps and never relinquished first place despite a late charge from Quartararo, who was chasing his second win in Spain. Suzuki's Alex Rins, who was joint leader in the World Championship coming into the race, went off the track on turn 12 and finished 19th, while Pramac Ducati also had a forgettable outing, with Johan Zarco crashing out and Jorge Martin finishing 22nd. Frenchman Quartararo now leads Espargaro by 7 points in the overall standings. Ai Ugura of Japan led from the start to finish for the first Moto2 victory of his career. He won by 2.509 seconds from Spaniard Aaron Carney, who was riding with a broken left radius and right fingers sustained in a crash last weekend. Italy's Tony Arbolino was third, a further 1.160 seconds back. Championship leader Celestino Vietti was 6th and is now 19 points ahead of Ogura in second place, with Arbolino third 11 points behind. Izan Guevara of Spain produced a superb maneuver on the final bend to win a thrilling Moto3 race. Lying third on the last lap behind Turkey's Deniz Oncu and championship leader Sergio Garcia of Spain, Guevara swept around the outside of them both going into the finishing straight to take the lead and win by 0.061 seconds from Garcia. Another Spaniard, Juanme Macia, forced his way into third, relegating Oncu to fourth with just 0.847 seconds covering the first 6 riders. The result extended Garcia's lead in the championship to 21 points from Italy's Dennis Foggia, who could only finish 18th. Guevara moved up to third, 9 points further back. In the Moto E LCR-E team, Eric Granado made it to 2 for 2 in the opening weekend of the FIM Inel Moto E World Cup with a superb win in race 2 on Sunday after having won race 1 on Saturday, April 30th.
Boxing legend Manny Pacquiao may have signed up for his toughest fight yet in running for president of the Philippines, facing doubts about his leadership and commitment as a lawmaker that could dent his appeal and deal a big blow to his ambitions.
Hi Manny, welcome back. Ladder Rocket.
The 42-year-old announced his candidacy in September last year, declaring his readiness to rise the challenge of leadership and battle poverty and corruption. As an 8 divisions world champion, Pacquiao is a national treasure, but analysts say he faced a huge challenge to convince the electorate he can lead a national beset by problems ranging from crime, craft, and national disasters to Islamic extremists, outdated infrastructures, and bloated bureaucracy. Pacquiao is in no political neophyte, having served as both congressmen and senators. Winning election with ease due to his mass appeal as one of the world boxing all-time greats and his rag to riches life story. His commitment to public service has also been questioned, with poor attendance in Congress and lengthy disappearance as a senator, while training for big money fights abroad. With the Constitution only allowing a single term as a president, Pacquiao will not have to take on popular incumbent Rodrigo Duterte, but he could face formidable opponent in his daughter Sara Duterte Carpio, who looks to have inherited her father's cult-like following. Despite repeatedly saying she will not run, Duterte Carpio, 43, has topped every opinion polls this year on preferred candidates. As a senator, Pacquiao allied himself with Duterte, backing his bloody wars on drugs and pushing to reintroduce the death penalty, but has sought to distance himself lately, complaining the governments of graft and criticizing Duterte's inaction against perceived China aggression in the South China Sea. Striking off his low rating in opinion polls, Pacquiao says his impoverished roots make him the best person to be president, as he warns voters to avoid corruption-tainted candidates. Pacquiao questioned why people support Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the current frontrunner for the B9 vote, pointing to the plunderings the country wove during the harsh authoritarian rule of his fathers and namesakes. Pacquiao is training for 4th place on 6% in the latest opinion polls held in early April, well behind Marcos, who is leading with 56%.
German tennis great Boris Becker was jailed on Friday, 29th April, for 2.5 years after being found guilty of 4 offenses under the Insolvency Act of 1986 following a bankruptcy trial in London.
The 54-year-old 6-time Grand Slam champion was found guilty after a trial at Southwark Crown Court earlier this month over offenses committed from May to October 2017. He was acquitted of a number of other charges. Becker, a former number 1 who won Wimbledon 3 times, was made bankrupt on June 21, 2017 at the London High Court in connection with a debt to private bankers Arbuthnot Latham and Company. Under the terms of the bankruptcy order, he was bound to provide full disclosures of assets. The charges Becker was convicted on included removing property totaling close to 427,000 euros from his bankruptcy estate, failing to disclose ownership of a property in Leimen in Germany, concealing a loan of 825,000 euros from the Bank of Alpinum of Liechtenstein, and ownership of 75,000 shares in Breaking Data Corp. On Friday, he was given a 30-month jail term at Southwark Crown Court. Becker became a tennis icon in the 1980s, winning Wimbledon as an unseeded 17-year-old in 1985 and successfully defending his title in 1986. He also won the US Open and was a 2-time Australian Open champion. During his trial, the court heard Becker earned $50 million during his career but had an expensive lifestyle, including divorcing his wife Barbara in 2001.
Surfers were greeted by wild surf as they fought to qualify from the round of 32 at the Margaret River Pro in Australia on Tuesday, 3rd May.
Good taper on it if they can get a handle onto it.
Big takeoff. And now setting up a huge bottom turn, Jack
Robinson caught the biggest wave of the day. The Australian scored 14.83 to comfortably defeat Lucas Messinas of Peru. Also through to finals day is Nat Young of the US, who defeated his fellow Californian Jack Marshall in the powerful 10-foot serve. There was not such good news for another American, 50-year-old Kelly Slater, who was eliminated in round 3 by veteran Brazilian surfer Jetson Andre. South Africa's Jordy Smith also went through. He beat Ezekiel Lau of the US to qualify.
After so many years trying, here we go, Nat Young.
Nat Young.
The Sydney Opera House is one of the most recognizable structures in the world, and since its opening in 1973, has played host to a who's who of world leaders, artists, and performers. Dominic Di Tommaso, an Australian free-running star, is the first to be granted permission to free-run on the iconic site for a unique performance of his own.
The 29-year-old former garbage man has a background in ballet and figure skating, which provide perfect for his transition to free running in creating his unique style. For his latest project, Dom Di Tommaso, Free Runner's Guide to Sydney's Opera House, Di Tommaso was given the keys to the Opera House, getting to free run areas at the large concert hall, the rafters in the ceiling and the back of the house and more. Di Tommaso performed a series of thrilling flips, jumps, runs and rolls, culminating in his first ever backflip on top of the iconic sails. He revealed, "It is every free runner's dream to take on a major iconic landmark. To be able to do exactly that in my hometown at the phenomenal Sydney Opera House was a dream I've had since I started free running. It more than lived up to my expectations. It blew them out of the water. The interesting architecture was such a great space to work with for movement and physical challenges. The highlight for me was doing the backflip right on top of the sails. It was really special and it's been a career highlight for me working alongside the Red Bull to bring this vision to life. I hope it delivers some excitement and inspiration." He added, "Of all the things I found in the Opera House, the most mentally anguishing was running across the exposed rafters above the dining hall. I think I'm not as comfortable on the bars as I am other obstacles. The brain works in mysterious ways sometimes." The decorative free runner has carved out a reputation of exploring unique location used free running. His previous projects have seen him perform against the backdrops of Burgess rooftops in Belgium, the pyramids of Egypt, and Istanbul's Great Bazaar in Turkey.
The shirt worn by Diego Maradona when he scored 2 of the most famous goals in soccer history was sold for £7.14 million on Wednesday, 4th May, marking a new auction record for an item of sports memorabilia.
Maradona wore Argentina's number 10 shirt in the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal against England in Mexico. 6 minutes into the second half, he put his team ahead by punching the ball into the net for what became known as the Hand of God goal. 4 minutes later, Maradona dribbled from his own half to score his goal, widely considered one of the greatest in World Cup history. England midfielder Steve Hodge got Maradona's jersey after the game and announced last month he was putting it up for auction after 19 years on display at England's National Football Museum. Sotheby's said the buyer was anonymous. The sale broke the previous record for sports memorabilia set by the original autographed manuscript of the Olympic Manifesto from 1892, which went for $8.8 million in 2019. The sale of Maradona's jersey was complicated by claims that the wrong shirt was going under the hammer, with his daughter and ex-wife saying Hodge received the shirt Maradona wore in the first half of the match. Sotheby's said they used photo matching technology to conclusively match the shirt to both goals by examining unique details on various elements of the item, including the patch, stripes, and numbering. Maradona, regarded as one of the world's best ever footballers, died in November 2020, aged 60.
Katie Taylor retained her undisputed lightweight world championship on Saturday with a split decision victory over Amanda Serrano on a historic night in Madison Square Garden, New York, in front of a raucous sellout crowd.
The Irishwoman, who stretched her unbeaten professional record to 21 wins, 0 losses, and Serena was the first woman to headline the fight of the world's most famous arena and put on a show-stopping performance equal to occasion. Taylor kept the fight on the outside to begin with before deciding to stand and trade in the 4th and 5th, and she almost paid dearly for the decision as Serena connected. Her legs were still wobbling well into the 6th round, but she managed to dig deep and get back on the outside, picking off the challenger and scoring simple combinations. Taylor went out for the finish in the final round, punching as the final bell approached, but then the work was done and the judges convinced that Taylor's hand was one that deserved a raise after the epic encounter. Competing after the watchful eye of the pioneering Hall of Fame Christy Martin in the biggest fight in the history of the women's boxing, the meeting between the two best pound-for-pound boxers ushered in a new era for the sport. The famed boxing venue was planned host to luminaries much as Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, but had never seen two women headline before. An event set the Big Apple buzzing to its core. Promoter Matchroom Boxing said the fight attracted more media applications than Britain Anthony Joshua's heavyweights fights at Wembley against Waldemar Klitschko and against Oscar Usyk and Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The packed stadium was unbelievable. It was absolutely special. Special moment. The best night of my career for sure. I wasn't sure if anything could have reached my Olympic gold medal moment, but tonight was absolutely the best moment of my career, said Taylor.
Sold out MSG.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. National Primary School Athletics Competition was officially opened on the morning of May 4th, 2022 at the National Olympic Stadium.
Speaking at the opening ceremony, Samheng Baro, Secretary of State of Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth of Rehabilitation and President of the Khmer Amateur Athletics Federations, emphasised that the National Primary School Athletics Competition is very important to train and recruit children after suspended for 2 years during the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to thank the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports for organising this competition, and I am very happy to see children from 25 capitals and provinces participating in athletics competitions as we have nurtured them for love from an early age. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports provide accommodation, boarding and food for this year's national event. Samheng Baro added that this is an important issue to providing nutrient for children, which is the focus of the Minister. We know the competition training requires physical fitness through the supplement as well. Ms Heng Machu, Acting Secretary General of the Khmer Federation of the Volunteer Athletes, stated that the National Primary School Sports Competition was organised by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports with the technical cooperation of the Khmer Federation of Athletes in order to encourage students and parents, guardians of the public, coaches, assistant coaches and athletes are confident, supportive and actively involved with the Royal Government in making sports, especially athletics, more developed in the faster level. The former outstanding Cambodian national athlete added that the 2022 National Primary School Sports Competition will be held from April 29th to May the 8th, 2022 under the slogan Sports for Peace and Fun with 8 sports, including athletes from May the 4th to 7th, 2022 with a total of 200 male and female athletes. The National Primary School Athletics Competition has 9 different track and field competitions, including boys 60-metre sprint, girls 60-metre sprint, boys 800-metre sprint, girls 800-metre sprint, boys long jump, boys and girls high jumps, and mixed children's athletes.
Red Bull's Max Verstappen can take another big bite out of Ferrari rival Charles Leclerc's 27-point lead in Miami this weekend as Formula One gets ready to rock around its newest venue.
The pair have won twice each this season, and the fifth round on the fast track laid out around the Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Dolphin NFL team, could see another big battle between the 24-year-old frontrunner. Verstappen was dominant at the Imola in Italy 2 weeks ago, when he won a Saturday sprint from poles and lead from start to finish on Sunday, while also taking a bonus point for the fastest lap. The last Leclerc led from a previous 34 points, and the Ferrari driver will be keen to hit back strongly after the team failed to live up to expectations in front of the home crowd. Struggling Mercedes, the team of 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who finished a lowly 13th at Imola, will be similarly fired up even if they still have somewhat lower expectations. Hamilton has a great record in the United States, and Mercedes are hoping for clear signs of progressing in taming their bouncing car so it can go faster and finally start to reveal its hidden potential. Mclaren, with Britain Lando Norris on the podium at Imola, and Australian Daniel Ricciardo will also fancy their chances of strong points. The race is a sellout with 240,000 expected over the 3 days and a capacity 82,500 on Sunday, with the sport promising a cast of celebrity guests and a Super Bowl-style atmosphere. In an attempt to capture the Miami vibe, organizers have created a stimulated marina with a dry dock yard and a boarded surface, creating the impressions of the waters for the television cameras.
With just 200 days left until the start of the FIFA World Cup in Qatar 2022, the famous World Cup trophy is touring across the region and Qatar.
Fans and families were excited to attend the event on Thursday, 5th of May, as they snapped pictures and selfies next to the trophy and took part in soccer-related activities. The trophy is touring Qatar during the Eid holidays from May 5th until the 10th. It will be popping up in different tourist hotspots to mark the 200-day countdown to the World Cup finals here. People attending the event voiced their excitement for the upcoming tournament. It's been a dream to witness the FIFA 2022, said Maria Wilmer, an Indian expat who has been in Qatar for 10 years and went to her family to the event. The Gulf state will host the first World Cup in the Middle East, the first in Muslim state, and no other tournament has ever been held in Northern Hemisphere winter. Qatar, which is roughly the size of Jamaica, is also the smallest country to hold soccer's biggest event, with fans from 32 competing nations set to watch the games in 8 stadiums clustered around the only major city, Doha. On the plus side, that means supporters will be able to easily reach all venues, raising the possibility of watching more than one match in a day, in contrast to recent tournaments in Russia and Brazil, where flights were often needed to travel in each venue city.
While most of Latin America celebrates Labor Day on May 1st, the rural town of Otumba, Mexico dedicates the holiday to their hard-working donkeys.
In the 16th century rural town in the state of Mexico, donkeys are kings for a day as residents and visitors celebrate their burros. Thousands of families turned out for the traditional donkey day to attend donkey races, polo marches, and a costume competition. Spectators fawned over dozens of donkeys dressed from head to hoof in a wide variety of costumes such as Mexican television characters. Farmer Agustin Franco, who participated with his donkey in the costume competition, is thankful for the hard work of his donkey. He said that the donkey is good and holy to him and helps him a lot, especially with financial alleviation and transportation. The origins of Mexico's Donkey Festival are said to be traced back some 60 years ago. Otumba residents who rely heavily on donkeys decided they deserve their own day of honor.
Known for celebrities in over-the-top outfits, the Met Gala returned to its traditional date of the first Monday in May, just 8 months after 2021's pandemic-delayed event in September.
A-list stars who walked the red carpet at the Met Gala included James McAvoy, Carey Mulligan, Claire Danes, Gwen Stefani, Alicia Keys, Jared Leto, Emma Stone, Michelle Yeoh, Joe Jonas, Sophie Turner, Olivia Rodriguez, Gigi and Bella Hadid, Frederick Robertson, Sarah Jessica Parker, and many more. Even Elon Musk, the man of the hour after the purchase of Twitter, walked the red carpet.
The goal that I have should the everything come to fruition with Twitter is to have a service that is as broadly inclusive as possible, where ideally most of America is on it and talking, and having facilitating discussion between people and sharing ideas and content and creative things, whether they're written or video or podcasts.
Model Cara Delevingne posed at the annual Met Gala with her fashion statement to free the nipple. Musician Lizzo, who is a trained classical flute player, walked the carpet and played a gold flute for the cameras. Singer Billie Eilish appeared on the red carpet in a light green Gucci gown that she said was made with recycled materials to be eco-friendly. When asked about the pricing of his clothing, James McAvoy said that he just received the invitation and clothes from Armani, and he is not in a position to answer that question properly.
But then when we get things really cheap, we've got to look at the human cost of that as well. So I think we get the whole spectrum, but it's quite complicated, and I, for one, get confused by it quite easily. So I couldn't really answer that question from a point of or a position of authority, I'm afraid.
New York City mayor attended the gala with his wife and pointed out that he has seen changes in the fashion industry.
I'm really pleased how the fashion industry has started to readjust itself. Many of the events that I attended, they're talking about hair texture, skin tone, body types. So we're in a really good place, and I'm excited right here. New York is the center of the universe.
A couple decided to make the night extra special by getting engaged on the stairs of the Met Gala. U.S. First Lady Jill Biden helped celebrate the opening of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's costume exhibition titled In America, an Anthology of Fashion.
The history of American design is rich and deep. It is a story of innovation and ingenuity, of rebellion and renewal. It has often been written by those in the shadows, not recognized for their influence and art. But here at the Met, their stories are told. Their voices are raised and their work can shine.
This year, the gala's theme explores American fashion during the 19th and 20th centuries through approximately 100 garments presented in various settings, created by 9 film directors including Martin Scorsese and Chloe Zhao. Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Regina King, and Lin-Manuel Miranda all served as the event's co-hosts. The exhibit will officially open to the public on the 3rd of May after the conclusion of the museum's annual fundraising event, which is considered the biggest night in fashion. This year's invitation-only A-list guests were told to dress in gilded glamour.
A new exhibition on the world-renowned martial arts master Bruce Lee has been drawing in fans and enthusiasts from across the globe, while highlighting the wide influence the Kung Fu movie star had on many communities.
The Chinese Historical Society of America's VR Bruce Lee exhibit, which opened in San Francisco, Chinatown on April 24th, looks at many aspects of the martial arts star decorated life. It particularly explores Lee's popularity across socio-economic classes in the US, where he was especially popular in minority communities that were underrepresented elsewhere in popular culture. Collector Jeff Chin has loaned around 300 artifacts to the exhibit. Among them are items from the Green Hornet TV show that starred Bruce Lee as the Green Hornet's sidekick Kato, including a document that shows Lee was paid less than actors with minor roles and even less than a stuntman. As a child, Chin says he was bullied so badly that he developed an ulcer, but a poster featuring Bruce Lee inspired him to fight on just like his hero. The exhibition features a number of interactive displays to get visitors involved and thinking about how Lee sought to live his life.
Our exhibition here is to, see Bruce in those different ways, and then to show him beyond what people know him as, like the stereotypical Kung Fu master. He's beyond that. And then also, the goal is also to connect with the African American community.
Bruce's first student was African American, and he worked with many other students from the African American community. A connection explored in an entire floor of the exhibition called The Underground.
We were invited to contribute to the story of Bruce Lee, and in particular, to sharing the love and affinity and respect that the Black community, and then we expanded it to communities of color.
Those attending the exhibition are encouraged to share their thoughts on what Bruce Lee meant to them.
And finally, artist Kunle Adewale is bringing virtual reality to old folks' homes in Nigeria, allowing the elderly to listen and watch some of their favorite musicians and music videos through VR headsets. At the elderly care home in Lagos, Nigeria, 77-year-old Onatolo Onajobi wears a virtual reality headset to watch music videos of some of his favorite musicians. Onajobi used to be a disc jockey in his heyday and says the VR unit has helped him connect with music more intimately than ever before.
It looked as if I was watching Richard on stage. It gave me a feeling I can never forget.
Onajobi is not enjoying the joyful experience alone. Fellow elderly care home client Moradeo Ajibade is also filled with joy and nostalgia after trying on the VR unit.
I've never even seen this VR before, but this is my first time of using it. That's why I stood up and began dance. When the music entered my brain, it changed my swagger.
Kunle Adewale is an artist who focuses on what he refers to as therapeutic art projects. The 40-year-old founded Tender Arts Nigeria in 2013, a non-profit social enterprise that has carried out initiatives in India, Nigeria, South Africa, and other African countries. After the death of his parents, Adewale decided to make helping seniors live the rest of their lives in happiness a priority.
The virtual reality stuff is more the gaming thing for the youth. But there's so much potential that it can offer in the place of health and improving their well-being and their health status as well. So that is why I started this. And beyond that as well, I feel like the virtual reality can help seniors to really, in place of mental health and also in the place of brain health as well. Some of these elderly ones actually have dementia, which is known as memory loss as well. But what is important is that the virtual reality can help them to connect maybe with a popular musician they grew up knowing or listening to. So reliving that moment, reliving that experience and finding expression, being able to dance and move their bodies in a way that it just makes them happy in that moment. And it's fine. It might be short, but it's important for them.
While these VR experiences can't quite replace visits by family and short trips outside the home, Adewale's project is a safe way to put smiles on faces and get people dancing.
Sometimes the seniors get to experience this virtual reality and it seems that they can't get out of it. It's like they find themselves in the world, in their own world. They stay longer, they want to stay there forever.
Adewale and many others who operate in the VR space say use of the technology got a boost during the pandemic and the restrictions that have come with it. Adewale's Art in Medicine project also supports people living with sickle cell anemia. And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out over the next few days. Thanks for watching the weekly roundup here on EAC News Channel. More from the EAC News team in the Daily Roundup on Monday night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.